Hello everybody, my name is Roy Johnson, and welcome back to Movie Mumbles. It's been a while now since the last one, and yeah.
Yeah, I've been sort of busy. You've been busy. It's been fairly hectic. So
Yeah. We we've had some space. I know the last recording we did took 2 hours or 1 hour or
about
something.
an hour and a half, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So Womble, tell us the topic for this episode.
Today's topic is movie villains.
Yes, movie villains. In the history of cinema, there have been the good guys and there have been the bad guys since the beginning of fiction, basically. There's always been bad motherfuckers, you know.
And the reason why we're doing movie villains is because of the Suicide Squad.
But yeah, I can't wait to see your opinion of it, because I've heard things about the film. It's not sounding promising so far.
I've heard good things and bad things about it. I'm getting annoyed the fact that my press pass is like 2 days later than all the other press.
Yeah, but that's
literally what I've got planned now. Today, all I've been doing is just kind of chilling and relaxing so that I have enough energy to do this.
Yeah. So today we're going to be doing something very interesting. It's, instead of just talking about movie villains throughout this podcast, which we're going to do technically, but okay, so here's what we're going to do. Both Womble and I have assembled a top 5 list of what we consider pretty awesome movie villains, our personal favorites, and the like, and we're each gonna take turns discussing who we picked for our lists. So it's gonna be sort of like a top 10 list in a way, but kind of not. But
apart from, I don't know, like any of your, like I think 2 of your villains. I don't know.
I mean, they're kind of well known, I'd have to say. God, this is already awful already. But so yeah,
it's a train. Wait, it's a train wreck in the house.
Yeah, no, this is going amazing so far. Yeah, let's just I'll start with my number 5. This is gonna be the number 5 villain on my list. Okay, so in constructing my list, I wanted to sort of pick a cornerstone of like different types of movie villains. So the first one I wanted to get was the superhero villain, the comic book villain, the one that made an appearance from a comic book and into the silver screen. Now, there's a whole bunch of amazing ones out there, and I'm pretty sure you might have one on your list. But to sort of start off, I'm going to Batman, of course, because I love Batman. He's got a long history with films, and he's had a long history of fighting bad guys. And although so we're going to the Nolan Batman for this one, and although he's not the most popular Nolan super villain, he's my personal favorite. I gotta go with Bane from The Dark Knight Rises. He's a more controversial pick, I would say. I mean, he's a kind of polarizing character, I think. There's some people that really love Bane and some who think he's just really ridiculous.
At least you didn't pick the Bane from Batman.
Well, he's not. He's literally, that guy was just a mook. He was super strong.
He was actually more visually accurate to the comics, but I actually do agree with you. I think Tom Hardy as Bane was really well done, and I think his character was really fantastic. I just didn't like the film that much.
Yeah. So Bane is pretty much, I think his iteration is very close to the comics. Bane in the comics is just, he's not just the super strong guy. He was very cold and calculating, and they got that aspect of his character very right. And yes, the voice is kind of silly, but it also gives a very memorable aspect to his character. I imagine if they just gave him like a gruff, serious voice, then he wouldn't be nearly as memorable as he is right now. And it's not just the voice or anything. I would say he's pretty threatening, to be honest. The guy isn't just strength. There is like a sort of creepy factor to it. And I will admit, part of it's also his super villain plan, which kind of complex, honestly, when I was first watching The Dark Knight Rises, I honestly didn't know how Batman was gonna, when the end game came about and pretty much Gotham City ends up in wreckage, and Bane pretty much won for most of the film. He managed to successfully crumble like Gotham City in that sort of way. And when Endgame came about, I honestly didn't know how Batman was gonna, I don't know, spoilers or anything, just whatever. But
yeah, let's just go for spoilers. Everybody's watched the film.
Yeah, he's like takes the bomb away. I was pretty sure like Gotham City was gonna get blown up by the bomb at that point. Like I didn't really see how like Batman, and you can kind of argue of whether he did die during that, but yeah. But overall, Bane is pretty awesome, I think, honestly.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like Bane for me was what kept me watching that movie. It was at a point where, unfortunately, like I think that franchise didn't quite have too much going on for it. It already used its ace in the hole, and that is like the Dark Knight is just like one of the best films of all time, let alone comic book films. But I do think that Bane is one of the saving features of that film.
Yeah.
Especially Tom Hardy, and I love Tom Hardy in a lot of different things, but I thought he really brought it, not just physically, but mentally, and he also did have a very unique voice to go with it, and I think that defined his character as a villain really well. And actually, as a villain, you're kind of rooting for him, because he has a big past behind him that you kind of understand and that you kind of root for.
Yeah, definitely. I love the first scene he's in. He's in the plane crash. It's an awesome set piece where he's pretty much taking the guy's blood while they're like falling through like the plane and stuff. It's a cool action set piece and all that stuff. My only problem with Bane as a character is I have less of an issue with it, but I do kind of agree. I feel like the whole Talia al Ghul thing lessens his impact a little bit.
That was very tagged on to the story, and they were really trying to make a link back to the first film, and I think they just stretched it a bit too far for me for that. I don't like the Talia al Ghul at all. In that pretty much ruined. That's one of the bad things about that movie, and it's right up there. And yeah, it does lessen his stance as a movie villain. However, I've picked villains who aren't actually the main villain in the film.
Yeah, for me personally, I'm fine with it kind of, because I think some people think, oh, Talia al Ghul was the one that did everything and Bane was just a big strong guy that... But I feel like they were more like of a super villain team kind of thing in comparison. I mean, it still kind of sucks. I feel like Bane should have just been the villain. I think I agree, the Talia al Ghul angle was forced.
If I remember right from the comics, Bane was actually a Spanish or a Mexican wrestler.
Yeah, he's Latin American.
He was just jacked up on steroids, and he didn't have much of a brain, whereas in the Nolan universe, he did have a brain, and he had that cunning. So I guess it kind of did make sense that they would add someone else there to help Bane do that, but I think that he could have held his own anyway, the way that Nolan had wrote him. So yeah, for me, I would say that's probably his weaker side. I wouldn't say that he was in my top 10 villains, though.
Well, I mean, then what is your top 10 villains?
Well, my number 5. I'm going to say it this way. My number 5, and it took me a very long time to think of this list, and I was umming and ahhing because there's a lot of brilliant movie villains. And actually, what I noticed from my list, and I'm sure that it's pretty much the same with yours, they're all white males, which makes me sexist and racist.
All of them are. I'm not sure white males, but definitely all of them are males. I mean, there's good female villains.
There are some good female villains.
We just didn't pick them. We didn't pick them.
There are some good ethnic villains, but I think the best are the white ones. I only noticed this last night. And I'm just thinking, oh shit, what have I done? But I've gone stereotype. I've gone for literally the best villains. Like, I've gone for the ones that everyone's going to go for. And my number 5 is Colonel Hans Landa from Inglourious Basterds. Because, the reason why I have him on my list is because his presence in itself is intimidating. And he doesn't actually do much. He just sits at, a coffee table and drinks some milk. And that is scary because, you actually get the fear from the person on the other side of the table. They're the ones that know of his reputation, and you don't necessarily see it in the film, and that makes the whole thing intimidating because it's constant wonder of, wait, why is everyone scared of this person? Not just that, he's clever, so he knows he knows how to run things, he knows how to catch people, and effectively that was his job. Like, it was his job in the film to catch Jews and other things like that, and he did it very well. Like, he knew where people were, he never let them get away unless he had motivation for it. And right at the end, he admits defeat, throws in the towel, and says, yeah, okay, I'm going to become an ally. Yeah, I'll throw Hitler under the bus. Fuck Hitler. And it's just really clever the way he does that. And when he turns like this, it's like it makes it worth it. And you kind of root for this character. And he doesn't he doesn't like shout. He doesn't have a gun. He's just has manners, and he uses these manners in such a way that makes him very intimidating.
Yeah, I will admit, Inglourious Basterds is one of the Quentin Tarantino films I haven't seen yet.
Oh no, I just gave a load of spoilers.
It's fine. I don't I'm gonna probably spoil things in my characters. Don't worry, it's okay. All I know is he's a Nazi. That automatically kind of just gives him like villain like points right there. But
Hans Lander was the he was the colonel,
Jew killer,
like the main colonel of the SS, and he was literally in charge of chasing down the Jews.
That sounds menacing.
And finding the Jews hiding in France, in like pretty much all over Germany, and he's very good at it. And like his whole screen presence is literally just very, very menacing. And I think that it's a brilliant performance by Christoph Waltz, an actor that I wasn't aware of until this film, and since then I've watched him in subsequent things, and I'm just thinking, wow, this guy is really good.
Yeah, I mean, he won an Oscar for that performance, I think.
I think he did, yeah.
Yeah, but both of his Oscars have been with Quentin Tarantino films, because I know he won one for Django Unchained.
Another film where he's brilliant in, and he doesn't play the villain in that. He plays a really nice, a cool sort of helping character that helps Django get past his slavery and helps him become a super assassin, which is brilliant. Back to Hans Lander, like, I personally feel that because his presence isn't shouty, gunny, it's more of a mentality that is calm and mannered, that actually makes him a lot more dangerous, because you generally, like, he has standards, but then he will break those standards if he needs to, and he will cross lines.
Yeah, I haven't seen the movie, so I can't add much to this conversation, but I have seen some scenes in him, and yeah, I feel like he does kind of balance the line between seriousness and silliness, and I think that does make it does make the scenes where he is actually like serious even more impactful, and kind of like scary in a way, because he's got an unpredictable character in a way.
Yeah, that's true. And do you want to move on to your next one?
Sure. Okay, so we did comic book superheroes. Going to silver screen. Next villain I want to get off the list is the comedic villain. The villains who aren't necessarily threatening or like dangerous or anything. They're just kind of just silly villains. You see a lot of these in comedies and the sort. And for me, I have to go with Dr. Evil from Austin Powers. He's probably the like greatest James Bond villain parody of all time. I think he's probably more popular than the guy he was based on, Ernst Blofeld.
Yeah, well, Blofeld's problem was the fact that he had 4 or 5 different actors that portrayed him over 4 or 5 different films, which doesn't help him.
Yeah, but even then, like, his it got, like, his parody, like, ascended, like, James Bond. Like, Austin Powers, as a series, I think it's a really funny, series. It goes past, typical, like, parody, like, tropes and stuff, and to kind of create its own sort of sense of humor, and I think Dr. Evil's a testament to it. The guy's funny, not because he's just Ernst Blofeld, but kind of sillier. He is his own separate character. He has a family. He has his own like issues and stuff. And fuck, I forgot the guy. Mike Myers. Mike Myers. Yeah. Mike Myers does a really good job portraying like the character. He's so ridiculous, and everyone's done their own impression, like Pinky to the mouth. $1 million.
I shall call him Mini-Me.
Yeah, the guy's full of just amazing quotes, and in all 3 of the movies.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, very memorable, very funny, and he's just a ridiculous little guy.
See this is actually a difficult one for me because yes, I would say he is a brilliant character and a fantastically portrayed by Mike Myers, but I wouldn't say that he is like a good villain because actually he doesn't succeed in any of his plans. Like they're always thwarted by Austin Powers, and really like his whole agenda is kind of like a farce as it is. Like unreasonable goals. It was like when he comes back, like into the present, and he says, "I need $1 million," and then everyone is like, "Yeah, okay, you can have $1 million. That's easy." So really, as a villain, he's not brilliant, but he is a fantastic character. I love Dr. Evil. I love Austin Powers, though I haven't seen those films in a while, which I need to get back into watching them again.
Yeah, no, they're good. They're good, funny films. For me though, when I'm doing a list of favorite characters, I'm not doing it on who's the most dangerous. I'm not doing it on. I am doing it on who's like the best characters, and sometimes the best characters aren't villains that are successful in their endeavors. Sometimes the best villains are the guys who can make you laugh, and of course, comedy villains work much better if they're incompetent for the most part. A serious villain for a comedy is just, if he doesn't make you laugh, unless that's the joke, then like why have him, you know?
I am talking of a comedy villain. The comedy villain that I really generally like from Hot Fuzz, I can't remember his name, but it was played by one of the James Bonds actually.
Oh yeah, okay,
yeah, and like the way that they manage that villain is generally really entertaining for that film. So yeah, comedy villains do work, and I do like comedy villains, and they do need its. But maybe comedy villains need their own list because there's quite a few comedy villains that I didn't even think of when we were doing villains and like greatest villains and stuff.
Yeah, that's why I included mine. So there's a diversity in the list as opposed to your list.
Yeah, you see, I'm not known for diversity. That's
okay. So what's your number 4?
Although having said that, my next one is someone who is a calculated assassin. He is very serious, he's quiet, he's concise, and he knows his job, and he does it well. He leaves no trace, and he goes about his business by flipping coins. No, I'm not talking about Two-Face. I'm talking about Anton Chigurh, which is actually the villain from No Country of Old Men. And I can't remember who it's portrayed by, but he is of Spanish descent.
Javier Bardem.
That's the one. You see, I can't actually pronounce his name, which is why I don't remember it. But yeah, no, the reason why he's on my list is because he is literally really quiet, he is concise, and he knows his work. He barely talks in that movie, and that is why he is so intimidating. Like, there is a scene where another assassin who is after the main character in No Country for Old Men, and I do apologize, but I can't remember any of the names.
That's Woody Harrelson.
Yes. Woody Harrelson.
Wells is his character. Wells
is in a board meeting with his employers, and his Anton Chigurh's his name is actually mentioned in that board meeting, and you see Woody Harrelson's like eyes flicker because he knows that this guy is like the best guy, and it scares him.
Yeah,
and I know that you actually were going to put this guy on your list.
I actually,
which is also interesting. So I'm sure you've got things to say.
Yeah, I actually, No Country for Old Men was a more recent watch. In fact, I was reading the book at the time when I was reading the book, and I decided, you know what, I'm gonna watch the movie. After I wasn't finished with the book when I was watching the movie, but after watching the movie, like Anton Chigurh's voice became Javier Bardem's voice. He's such a complicated villain. Like, he has such a great presence. He's pretty much just Terminator, but there's more to him than that. He's a basic Terminator character, but
do you know what I missed out from my list, which I'm regretting? T-2000.
Yeah, that was a good T-1000, but yeah.
T-1000, yeah.
Yeah, good one. But anyway, going on to that, Javier Bardem's performance is incredible for that film. He has a weird accent. I heard the Coen brothers that was Javier's Bardem's attempt at like hiding his Spanish accent, that weird grumbled up like that one is so memorable, and he's such a complicated character. I actually did an essay on the character, and there have been plenty of other people who've done that, because what the fuck is he? What's his motivation? How did he become this?
It's really good. Like I love that film. It's probably one of my favorite of recent years. Like, I remember when I went to go and see it, and I was blown away by the film. And then I've watched it since then, like with knowledge of filmmaking and stuff, and I was just completely blown away by how intimidating the villain is, and two, how well it is put into the film. So he's not overused, he's not shown too much, he's not like thrown in your face. It's calm and calculating, and yet you don't want to mess with him. You don't want to be on the other side of that coin.
Like you said, there is an intimidating factor to him, and he is legitimately like terrifying in that aspect. But one aspect I do appreciate about the character is, yes, he's almost like this unstoppable Terminator kind of character, but the fact is he does like get hurt. It's not prominent, but the fact is the main character Moss actually does shoot at him. And, of course, the car crash at the very end of the movie, it shows a very vulnerable side to him, and I think it kind of goes along with his main philosophy of fate. And the fact is, his philosophy, world's a random, jumbled up, crazy world you can never understand.
Yeah, no, that's true. And even though he did get hurt, and he did get shot, and he did have the car crash, he still carried on.
Yeah, no.
And it was his determination. I think that's what's most scary about it.
So, number 3 for me. Now let's go on to an entire, like, pretty much one of the few genres where the villain can kind of take over a series, and that's horror. And, of course, there's a lot of classic horror characters, villains, and there's a lot of modern horror villains. I'm going with Freddy Krueger from A Nightmare on Elm Street. I mean, kind of the series, but I think probably his best part was in the first Nightmare on Elm Street film.
See, this is where I haven't seen these films, so I don't actually. I know of Freddy Krueger, obviously, and for me, he's a little bit of a gimmick. So I'm gonna sort of let you explain, and I'll just sort of sit by and listen.
Well, first of all, I mean, you can call it a gimmick, but the concept of Freddy Krueger is a pretty terrifying concept. The fact is, he's not a serial killer like a Jason Voorhees or a Michael Myers. He kills you in your dreams. The very thought, like, dreaming itself is a very vulnerable thing that everyone does, and the fact that he's able to pretty much kill you in such a vulnerable state, and you have no control over it. It's a necessary part of your body, and that's a concept that's freaked many people out on their own. But the fact is, he's also a sadistic serial killer. Before he became Freddy Krueger, he was like a child rapist and serial killer, and then now he's an evil fear demon who can distort the reality of your own dreams. And of course, once he kills you in your dreams, you're dead in real life. And it's a terrifying concept, and Robert Englund does an impeccable job, especially in the first film, where like Freddy Krueger later on became silly, much more sillier. They made him more ridiculous, and the dreams became less and less scary. But in the first film, he was legitimately terrifying. He was just creepy. He had a sense of humor, but it wasn't ridiculous as it would later become. And just it's really, really it's a really cool concept, and it's a really great performance by Robert Englund that really just seals the character for me.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit stuck with this one because like I said, I haven't seen Nightmare on Elm Street. I do like the idea of the villain though. Not necessarily the ones after, but I'm pretty sure in the first installment of that franchise that Freddy Krueger is going to be pretty intense and scary.
Yeah, definitely.
But then I'm not really a horror person either, so like I don't really enjoy horror films because of they're just kind of predictable now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a horror aficionado, but that one's like the Nightmare on Elm Street. The first one is like a classic of cinema, and I would recommend it. Even if you're not a big horror fan, I would recommend at least seeing it once.
Well, I'm now going to battle you on this because you say that Nightmare on Elm Street is one of the best horror films. I'm going to say that The Shining is the best horror film of all
Transitioning.
time. And that being said, Jack Torrance is my next pick for my movie villain. Basically, this is a family man. Like, he is a father, and he's a good guy at the beginning. And as you go through the story, you see that his psyche is starting to crack and it's starting to break. And it's actually one of the few villains that you really are rooting for right at the beginning until you realize where the story is headed. And where that story is headed is not a nice place. Not a nice place to be. No, he's not clever. No, he's not calculating. He's just a mad guy. He's a mad guy with an axe. When you're trapped in a hotel on your own in the middle of a snowstorm with literally just a kid, like that's horrifying. Not only that, it's also the fact that Jack is your husband, your father. Like, what is happening? Like, come on. So, and I know that the film doesn't go into the fact how he turned or why he turned. The film more portrayed it as stress and strain of the character. But really, the reason why I like this villain so much, not just the fact that Jack Nicholson did a good portrayal of it, is because this character grows from being the lovable father to the driven, insane madman that is going to chase you with an axe.
Yeah, that's a funny thing about that character, especially when you put it on your list, because he is technically the main character of the story in a way. I mean,
that's also another reason why I think he's probably one of the greatest villains, is because he's the main character of the story, and you get behind him, and you're rooting for him, and then you realize that, wait, no, he's the bad guy in this.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
He's gonna kill Shelley Duvall and the guy who looks like a young Anakin Skywalker.
Yes. And you know my preferences to children in films.
Oh, yeah.
I was still rooting for Jack Torrance. Let's just say that.
Going along with that, there is a transformation with the character, but there's also hints at the very beginning that he's not like as sane as like there's a hint of that insanity, and I think that's also kind of terrifying because it also kind of it can say that with the right conditions, a normal family guy with maybe a little bit of like anger issues or whatever can turn into a psychopath that's willing to kill his own family.
Exactly, and especially because the film doesn't really explore Jack's background or anything like that. For the audience, he is just a normal family guy. Like, he's just a normal man. Like, not Peter Griffin, but he is just a normal family person. So for him to go through those emotions and you see it happening and you're following through him, like, for me personally, that's really scary. Now, in the book, which I've also read, I read that.
Really, you read that? It's such a big book.
Yeah. It's very different. Like, you follow Jack through his background and you discover more about his background. Then you also discover about the actual reasons of why he turned and what was getting in his head at the time. That's my phone. That's really unprofessional. I should have that mute. But yeah, no. Jack Torrance for me. That's number 3 on my spot.
Yeah.
Moving on, I think.
Yeah. Just one quick side note. I don't know. Stephen King. I just can't read his books. They are too.
I love.
I'm sorry. They're just too big.
Read almost every single one of them. So I disagree. With you.
Yeah. And I'm just saying because you have a lot of time on your hands. Nothing against the guy. It's just.
I do not. I used to. It was when I was sort of working in the film industry. That's when I used to read a lot. Now I don't. Now I don't read a lot at all.
Oh, that's a shame. Okay, number two. I think this is gonna be the only animation pick for this entire list, but there's a lot of good animation villains, especially from Disney. Disney has essentially made a franchise out of their own Disney villains, because there are so many great classic Disney villains of the like. There's Scar, there's Cruella de Vil, the bitch from Cinderella.
The technical term is the bitch.
The step from bitch.
I'm now gonna call her that pretty much forever.
But but probably the best one, in my personal opinion, has got to go to Judge Frollo from The Hunchback of Notre Dame. The Hunchback of Notre Dame is one of my personal favorite Disney movies of all of them. It has a dark tone. It has a lot of Catholic religious like imagery, just adult stuff in the film that you don't.
But but at its heart, it's just Beauty and the Beast. That was why I could never get behind the film. And actually, I have only watched this when I was 10. So again, I'm not going to be the best at this one, but I remember this kind of story that the Hunchback is kind of feared and disgusted, and he actually is a human being on the inside and stuff. So for me, that's just Beauty and the Beast, right?
Well, I mean, it's a different movie, I think. First of all, it's very mature in tone. I think you should give it a rewatch, honestly, because I feel like it's one of those Disney films that it was underappreciated at the time, but it's not really Beauty and the Beast. First of all, because Quasimodo doesn't get the girl at the end. That's one thing.
Does he not? I always thought he
No.
did. Like, that's obviously my 10-year-old self that's just lying to me right now.
I think you should give it a rewatch. But going on to Judge Frollo, though, the guy is he's a much more complicated villain than Disney's typical arrange. He was pretty much, here's the story. He took in Quasimodo in the bell tower, but that's not anything nice or anything, because he treats him like shit. He keeps him separated from humanity, and he pretty much tells them that people, like, fear you and stuff, and that you shouldn't leave, and all that stuff. But the main kind of conflict in the film is the fact that he wants to basically bang the main female character in the movie, who's a gypsy. And, of course, he has a racism towards gypsies. And, of course, he's a judge, but he's also, like, very much in, like, the religious system, so it's kind of... He's very much having his own, like, religious, like, crisis over his own lust for this girl. And it's presented very beautifully in Hellfire, which is an amazing song on its own and stuff. It's so epic, and it just basically tells him that he has this lust, and it's driving him crazy that he's gonna either get the girl or she's gonna die. He pretty much burns down Paris. I don't know, I forgot how he did that, but he did that. Because of his...
Yeah, I do. No, I do remember him trying to burn down Paris, and I do remember that ending. No, he did do it. I remember a lot of fire. You see, this is me trying to remember back like 15 years ago. So
there's the racism of the gypsies, his lust for the main character. It has a lot of rape kind of imagery with that, and the fact that he is such a holy figure with these kinds of issues. And then I love the best part of it is, like, at the very, very end, there's a lovely irony in the scene. Pretty much, he's about to kill Quasimodo, he's on top of a gargoyle and stuff, and he pretty much says, I'm gonna send, like, the wicked ones should go face the fires of hell, pretty much. And then the gargoyle crumbles, and Frollo is stuck on it, and then the gargoyle, with a demon-like face, like, screams at him as he goes down in the fire. And there's a lovely irony and all that. It's an amazing scene. He's one of the best things about that movie, and I think it is an amazing movie. And I don't know what the 10-year-old self thought of the movie, but I think you should. I would recommend you see that movie, honestly. I think you would really appreciate it.
I will definitely try and look into it.
Yeah. Okay, so what's your...
Sorry, I just sneezed. I had to mute my mic for a second. You've gone with, for number 2, you've gone with a Disney animated thing. Mine isn't Disney. It isn't animated. However, he does have a girl involved. Now, not necessarily from a sexual point of view, but he does have someone that he admires and reveres. And this is also one of the best, and probably, for me, my second to the best of all time movie villains. And it's actually a film that I watched literally last night in preparation for this, and realized and remembered how good this guy is. And it is, of course, Hannibal Lecter from Silence of the Lambs. Now, the thing is with Hannibal is that he's not actually the true villain in Silence of the Lambs. The true villain is Buffalo Bill. The whole put the lotion in the basket sort of thing, and like his unhinged insanity. But Hannibal is actually the anti-hero. He goes about it in such a way, he helps Clarice because he likes Clarice, but he's also incredibly clever, and he is scheming, and he is really concise and polite. And that goes back to Colonel Hans Lander, but he also takes it to that next level where he is also brutal. He has a nickname. He is well known as Hannibal the Cannibal. And like his whole presence for the whole of the film, every single thing with him in, it's just so well shot and beautifully made that like for me, Hannibal is one of the best, if not the best villain of all time. And the final moment of Silence of the Lambs, spoilers, by the way.
Well, we already established we're not like giving a shit about spoilers.
Of course. Like everyone has already seen Silence of the Lambs. It's old now. You know you should have seen it. It's one of the greatest films of all time.
Mm-hmm.
But the moment where he walks off after the doctor, and you know he literally says on the phone, the last line that he says, "I would love to stop by, Clarice, but I'm having an old friend for dinner." Hangs up the phone and then follows the doctor into the distance, and you're just like, holy shit, he's free. And that is one of the best cinematic moments and the best movie villains of all time. He is incarcerated for the whole of the film up until his whole escape. That's scary and clever and weird, and like the fact that he decapitates one of his victims' faces and then dresses him like his victim
He's in like a cross position
as himself and swaps places, and it's just like, what? But like, you don't expect that sort of gruesomeness from someone who was polite but like also conniving and is also a psychiatrist. So he gets into your head, and it's just like, so many levels of him is just brilliant, beyond belief.
Does the man make your nipples tingle with anticipation?
Yes. Yes, he does.
For me, I have an interesting sort of thing with Hannibal Lecter. I don't find him as like intense, scary. Maybe it's just because of the popular like perception of Hannibal Lecter kind of losing the impact of seeing him for the first time.
I think what has lost the impact for Hannibal Lecter is maybe possibly the sequels. Hannibal was good. It didn't quite have that intimidation, but there was a third one, and it was like the prequel to Hannibal Lecter.
Red Dragon.
It didn't have Anthony Hopkins, or it had Anthony Hopkins with like CGI on.
Oh,
or something
is
like
that? Are you talking about Hannibal Rising or Red Dragon?
So something like that. Hannibal Rising.
Yeah.
I think. I never actually properly fully watched that because I didn't really get behind it that much. But Hannibal, and again, Anthony Hopkins reprising his role as Hannibal Lecter, that's still really scary and spooky. It doesn't quite have the character development that Silence of the Lambs had, especially minus Jodie Foster.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's still a really scary villain. And for me, like, Hannibal Lecter is one of the best villains of all time because he's clever, he's concise, he's polite, but he gets in your head. And then when he gets inside your head, that's very bad.
Yeah. He is a very memorable villain, definitely. Probably one of the most memorable. All of his lines are incredibly memorable. His sort of strange little relationship with Jodie Foster's character it's such a great...
Clarice.
Yeah. Sorry. But they have such a great rapport with each other. And it's interesting to see it throughout the film. And yeah, when he does get... I will admit, when he does get messy... It is like he does have a lot of disturbing stuff in him. I think it just kind of loses the impact because of they kind of did take away some of the impact with popular culture. You didn't mention Red Dragon though. He was in that one too. That was the Brett Ratner one.
Yes. I haven't seen that one. That's why I didn't mention it. So.
Well, you said yeah, okay, but no, definitely can't go wrong with Hannibal Lecter. No, that guy. Definitely. Anthony Hopkins. Yeah, you're picking guys that have won Oscars. I just, most of the list has been Oscars.
Yes. Pretty much all of mine are like Oscar winners. That's how good they are.
Yeah, that film won a lot of Oscars. It won...
I've told you, I warned you right at the beginning. I've gone for the obvious.
Yeah.
Who needs to be original?
Yeah, no. So, yeah. Number one, gotta give it to... a little bit of anticipation.
Before you reveal yours, I was actually very close to putting your number one on my list, but there is a reason why I didn't. We'll come to that in a second.
Definitely. But in terms of you gotta give credit to this guy. He is part of the most well-known movie series of all time. He's the most popular character in that series, and that says a lot. it's got to go to Darth Vader. He is probably one of the most famous, but definitely the most famous movie villain of all time. And he has such an interesting history with Star Wars. The first film, he's barely in it. And, I mean, you can argue Tarkin is the bigger villain of the series, even though no one gives really two shits about him. It's really when Empire Strikes Back happens where you really get to, like, see the full impact of his character. And it's very funny. There was another guy in the suit when he did it, but James Earl Jones really brung the presence to the character. He made him such a badass. He left such a big impact in the first film with the little screen time he had, and then Empire Strikes Back happens, and you got that twist ending. Luke, I am your father. That's not the correct quote, I know, but whatever.
Luke, I am your father.
It was such a great, impactful twist. No one saw it coming, and then the next film focuses on the relationship between Luke and Darth Vader, and Darth Vader does have that redemption in that film, and it does feel well done in that sense. He destroys a planet, he pretty much kills a lot of Jedi, he does a lot of bad shit, and it's so weird that you're still able to kind of, he gets redemption, but it works, and I know why you excluded him, and I can understand that.
Okay, no, before I go into why I didn't put him on my list, I just want to, say, I think it's David Prowse, who was the bodybuilder inside the suit. And actually, if you look on the DVD bonus extras, David Prowse actually does a full, massive, he really goes for it when he delivers
It's so bad. It's so...
And it was never intended that he would be the actual voice.
Yeah.
James Earl Jones actually only got credited for doing the voice in Jedi. He actually refused to be credited for Star Wars and the Empire. So he was never actually credited for that. I'm going to go for the big elephant in the room here, and that is Christensen. He ruined Darth Vader for me. He literally ruined Darth Vader. I know too much about Darth Vader now. Star Wars with Darth Vader, he is the main villain, but he doesn't have any story whatsoever. So for me, he's just kind of an intimidating, I'm the bad guy, you're going to not like me, oh, the Force is strong with this one, that sort of thing. He doesn't really do that much. And really, actually, the main bad guy is Moff Tarkin, Grand Moff Tarkin.
Yeah.
He's the one that pulls all the strings. He's the one that has the clever, idealistic. He's the one that is literally holding Vader's chain. Now, Empire, he is the main villain. I agree with you on that. It's kind of a little bit of, with the Emperor in the background, he does have a little bit of foreshadowing of what might be to come, and with the final reveal at the end. Jedi, however, he isn't really a villain, because he generally ends up being Anakin Skywalker again, and he doesn't actually do anything bad in Jedi. The main villain is the Emperor in Jedi, and it brushes over all of Vader, and I think that's one of the reasons why Jedi doesn't work that well, is the fact that they have this fantastic villain and they kind of brush him to a little bit of a side and then give it a little bit of a twist, which then Lucas just completely and utterly shits all over. The whole Anakin Skywalker, Christian Haydenson was so badly cast, he literally ruined Darth Vader. He even got into the suit and gave the whole dramatic "no," which I will never forget. That is now Darth Vader for me. He is coming off a table, Padme, no, and I can't forgive that, and I can't forget that, and that's why Vader didn't make my list. I was very tempted to put him on there, but the prequels ruined it for me.
I will admit, the prequels, not George Lucas's best work, but I do like the concept of the prequels. I think the execution is fucking awful.
Oh, no. Yeah, no, actually, I do agree. I do like the concept of the prequels, and I do like the stories of the prequels. I do not like the prequel films. I think they're really, really poorly wrote and really poorly executed, directed, handled, acted. Literally everything post of the script is kind of terrible.
I think the idea of giving Darth Vader a backstory wasn't a bad idea, and the backstory itself isn't terrible. The whole, he used to be a Jedi, and then he has this fall into darkness, and there is a tragic element to it, and I do like that. the execution is bad.
For me, yes, you do. I do want to see the Darth Vader backstory, but I don't want him to be the main character of the prequels. I wanted Obi-Wan to be the main character, and then you see through him Anakin's change. And if you make Obi-Wan the main character, then the overarching story of the 6 films is Vader's story, and that makes it a whole different ballpark, and it's a massive change on that character, and that never happened. And for me, Vader, and it's still happening, like the whole Kylo Ren burnt mask, you are my grandfather sort of thing. They're still trying to make Vader cool, and for me, it's been ruined beyond repair.
You know, Darth Vader himself, he is a pop culture icon, and even if he is given like shitty dialogue, as you say, and no is a really bad scene in it. However, I do think Darth Vader, he still has that threatening presence to it, and yes, the prequels did tarnish some aspects of it. However, I do have to give credit to the original Star Wars and what they did with the character, and he is still probably one of the most famous movie villain of all time.
Well, just before, I do want to say that my argument against Vader is exactly the same as your argument against Hannibal Lecter. It's really weird how that's worked out. But now we do move on to
your number one.
What is the greatest villain of all time, and I'm gonna just say it out there. He is insane. He is mental. He is clever. He is unpredictable. He is brilliant and still concise on a grand scale. He is all of these, and of course he is the Joker. And I'm gonna pick the Joker from The Dark Knight, even though I am going to go and see Suicide Squad in 2 hours' time, and we do have a new Joker. And I do think that Mark Hamill's Joker is the better Joker, but I think in terms of cinema and movies, Heath Ledger's Joker. That's why I've picked Heath Ledger. And I know you are of the same thought as me, as Mark Hamill is brilliant,
yeah,
perfect. The Joker, but he never actually played it in live action. It was always animation, and there's only so much I think he could do with just a voice, whereas Heath Ledger, he went above and beyond, and he was unexpected, because I was of the thought mind at the time where Heath Ledger, oh god, the guy from Brokeback Mountain, no, he can never be a Joker. Oh, how I was wrong.
Yeah.
And my god, yeah. But the thing is that he's intimidating on all levels. He is clever, he is educated, he knows how to play the game, he knows how to destroy the game, he knows how to push people beyond belief. He turns Harvey Dent, who is the White Knight of Gotham, into Two-Face, which is literally like a massive swing that I didn't actually see coming into the film. I mean, I knew that obviously Harvey Dent's Two-Face, but you don't see that the Joker pushes him there. It's close to the Killing Joke in terms of the Joker pushing Gordon over, but in the Killing Joke, the Joker doesn't actually achieve that goal, whereas Heath Ledger's Joker does. Like, he achieves it. He pushes people over, and like, he proves that he, being unpredictable and brilliant as he is, there's no stopping him. Like, he has this weird plan, and it goes completely and utterly accurate. And the only thing that stopped him in the end was the rest of Gotham coming together, inmates and normal citizens alike, and then decided, you know what? We're not going to fall for this. And that was the only thing that stopped him. And even Batman, he couldn't stop him, because the Joker's plan was to get caught. That was his plan. He wanted to get caught, and he wanted to fight Batman, and he wanted to push Batman as far as he could.
Yeah, no, the Joker is probably one of the best comic book characters ever. Comic book villains.
I would say, I would argue he is the greatest comic book character, because as much as I like Batman, as much as I like Deadpool, as much as I like Superman, the Joker just brings that extra level of unpredictability that you can get behind.
Yeah,
or can't get behind, because you don't know who he is. like you don't know where he comes from. He has so many different origin stories.
Like the Killing Joke.
They try and explain it, and then they suddenly throw a curveball, and it's like, oh wow.
Yeah, no, I love that aspect of the character. I think the Joker is the pinnacle. Batman and the Joker are the pinnacle example of the ideological difference between a character. Because basically, Joker is Batman's opposite. While Batman represents order and justice and, like, the goodness of mankind, Joker is pure anarchy. He wants to show, like, the worst of humankind. And the Dark Knight plays off that aspect beautifully. There's even the scene where he goes... It's like we are destined to fight together because of all these ideological differences. And really, it's a shame that Heath Ledger had to die. It's really unfortunate. And I feel like the biggest tragedy is the fact we never got to see, because there was plans for the Joker to be in the sequel, and they were going to have a trial or anything.
They were going to have Harley Quinn as well.
Oh, really?
And they were going to have the trial. Yeah. They were going to have the trial with Heath Ledger. And that would have been brilliant. I've seen a number of different rumored scripts for The Dark Knight Returns, and like a lot of them involve the Joker. And it's such a shame that Heath Ledger obviously had to pass, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's a real big shame. I like The Dark Knight Rises, but I will admit I would have loved to see that story continue.
I think one of the reasons why I'm not keen on The Dark Knight Rises is because there is that what could have been moment about it. It's following something that, in my eyes, The Dark Knight is one of the greatest films to like literally come out in the last maybe 30 years. And that's a big achievement for a film to make, because there's a lot of films that come out, and there's a lot of great films.
Definitely. It just shows the big impact that character make. There's been plenty of different versions of the Joker before this, and just the fact that Heath Ledger was able to make such a wildly different, but still very much really got the character of the Joker. It really shows the power of the character and the power of Heath Ledger's performance. I've heard stories of the fact that he locked himself alone in like a hotel room. He drew like crazy shit in the journal just to get in the messed up psyche of that character. It really just shows like the scenes where he's intimidating people with like his backstories in air quotes. It's just so intimidating, and he is scary.
My father was a beater.
And a fiend. Yeah, he is probably the scariest of the Joker, like, around. And he made The Dark Knight. He pretty much he's the main reason why that film is so great.
Do you know how tempted I was to put Jack Nicholson's Joker on my list instead of Heath Ledger? I was really generally tempted, but I saw that I already had Jack Nicholson on my list once.
The Jack Nicholson list. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of that guy.
I think he was really clever and stuff, but the problem I had with his Joker was the fact that it had a backstory.
No, he was the killer. And
Heath Ledger have several backstories that you don't know what's true or not.
No, definitely, I agree with that. I love that aspect of the character, and Tim Burton didn't get that one part. And he's the killer. He is the killer of Batman. I never liked that aspect of it.
Well, bear in mind this is 89, so comic book movies aren't exactly a thing, and Tim Burton, he likes to push things beyond the source material.
Yeah, no.
So I actually really like the original.
I know you do. I'm not the biggest fan.
And that's it. We got through our list.
Yeah, well, we did. We got through our list. It's kind of funny, actually, that
you'll have to put like an audience clapping.
Yeah.
Now.
Oh, we love you guys. Yeah.
Laughter track. There we go. Laughter track.
Yeah. Closing.
There we go.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that's it for our...
That wasn't awkward.
That was... Okay. Well, that's it for our list. It's kind of funny, actually. We kind of opened and closed it off with a Nolan Batman villain. Not intentional.
Yeah, we did. That was generally not intentional.
No.
I didn't plan... I personally didn't plan on that.
Me neither.
I know you did.
No,
you planned on it.
Yes, I planned for that, but that only after we made the list, so...
Yeah, it was only after we made the list.
Yeah. I wanted this podcast to be shorter than last time, but it's pretty much about the same...
It's pretty much...
We just talk a lot.
An hour and a half long already.
We talk a lot, that's the thing.
Yeah, we do.
But yeah, that's it for today's episode. This has been a pretty good vlog. I think we should do more of these, like, top 10 thing.
Wait, you're recording me? What?
Oh yeah.
It's a vlog? Why is it a vlog? Where's the cameras? What?
What?
You said vlog.
I did say vlog? Oh, I did. I thought I said podcast. This was fun. I think we should do more of these top 5 kind of things in the future. We'll see what happens. But yeah, that's it for today's episode, podcast, vlog, whatever the fuck. Any last thoughts, Womble?
Don't end up in a back dark alley with the Joker. Or any of the villains. Like, just don't do that.
No, it's not. I mean, Dr. Evil, maybe. You might have a good time with him.
Maybe Dr. Evil. He might, like, set a cat mini-me on you and you can just, like, pat his head. Yeah. But, like, any of my villains don't do that. Also, all of my villains were Oscar winners, I think. Wait,
yeah. No.
Apart from one.
Which one was it? The... I know one of them was...
No Country for Old Men.
No, he won an Oscar.
Did he?
I think so.
No, then all of them have won an Oscar.
Yeah.
Literally all of my actors have won an Oscar for those parts. Wait.
No,
did Jack Torrance get an Oscar?
Wait, who? Which?
Yeah, no, I think that. Yeah, I think. Oh,
no, not Jack Nicholson. I don't think Jack Nicholson actually. No, I don't think that movie. It was hated first when.
Jack Nicholson definitely has an Oscar,
but not for that film. Definitely.
But I think it might have been for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah, that one.
Maybe.
Yeah, that was probably it. No, I know that people hate The Shining when it came out, so I doubt it got an Oscar. It got a Razzie. That's something.
I like how I'm awkwardly looking on YouTube and you're just like really trying to sum up the thing and I'm just saying nothing.
Yeah.
It's because I'm trying to do like 2 things at once. No,
I'm trying to end the vlog.
He didn't. He received a nomination for The Shining.
Oh really? He did. He did receive. Okay. Well, that's funny actually. I didn't know that.
No, I'm lying. He didn't.
Okay.
He did win for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and Terms of Endearment and As Good as It Gets.
Yeah, just not for The Shining. Okay. So, yeah. Okay. Bye. We're just stop.